Again, I welcome you to the Global Entrepreneurship class. Today we are talking about market and marketing. And what I would like to talk about is what's marketing and what is CDIO for the market. How do we involve the marketing process or thinking of the market throughout the CDIO process? And I would like to talk also about this life cycle of a product or a service for the matter. And I will talk about a concept that's called crossing the chasm and market evolution and entry to market if you are penetrating a new market, and how to market novel products and services. And I will talk about disruptive innovation and marketing of commoditized products and services. And I will talk about marketing in a matured market. So if I ask you the question, what is marketing? What would you answer me? Yvonne will help me with the mic. What is marketing? Okay, Arthur, thank you very much for volunteering again.
I broadly would define it as the act of promoting something, promoting a service or a product that is intended to be used by the target audience,
Right.
more or less, so to speak. Yeah.
So it's the act of promoting a product or a service for the customers. Yeah. Anyone would like to add anything? Yes. Yurik, want to say something? Yeah.
Introduce the product to the market.
Introduce the product. So it means come up with a totally new product and introduce it there.
Introduce and then get the attention from the public.
Right. Get the attention of the public. So it's quite similar to what, I think Jeff want to say something? Yep.
Making something unknown known.
Making something unknown known. Yeah. Yeah, please. You want to say something? You speak.
The way I understand marketing, right, is if you got a certain something,
Yes.
either it's a product or person or a service,
Yes.
is how you expose it to a certain crowd or targeted people.
Right. Right. Anyone else want to say anything? Yes. Behind you.
How would you plan on selling your product or services?
So marketing is how do you plan on selling your market or service?
The ability to reach your customers.
The ability to reach your customer. Okay, very good. What else? So you guys have mentioned very, very good things. The fact that you add selling a thing, a product, a person, or a service. Because believe it or not, we all sell our skills. When you go and apply for a job, you are actually marketing yourself. You are making yourself or your product or your service known to the crowd, reaching out to the customers. So you need to know who your customers are. So knowing the market and customers' requirements, needs, and desires is part of marketing. So sometimes people think of marketing is, I make something, I don't care about what you guys want or need or whatever. Then marketing is I go and put newspaper advertisement, TV advertisement, try to sell you chairs. But maybe this is not the chair that you're looking for. So it starts with this. Then you need to develop a value proposition for these customers. So after I know that my customers are engineering students from private institutions, or they are business students from public universities, or they are whatever, then my value proposition has to really address these customers. So for example, if you know that the students in Taylor's University, 90% of them drive, then a product that's related maybe to the cars or providing them with a car park would be a very attractive value proposition. But if you go to another university where maybe very few students drive and you go and sell them products for the car or sell them a place to park their car, you clearly missed the mark. You cannot say, oh, my product is, or my service is cheap parking for the students. Because there are some universities where students cannot afford to buy cars. And if they cannot afford to buy cars, they won't be interested in the car park anyway. Okay? Then you need to conceive for the market. So when you are building your device, you think of the market. Not only when the device or the service or the product is complete, think of the market. Just like you now, when you are working on yourselves, working on your degrees, developing your skills, you think of what would the market look like? What are the skills that will be required by the employers if you are going to seek employment? So you are conceiving, you are thinking of what should you do for the market. Likewise, sometimes there are people who join the degree based on which discipline will be more, employable or profitable in 10 years from today. I don't know whether to do engineering or law maybe. And someone say, I think lawyers will make more money. So if you don't mind, maybe you could just go with that, provided that the prediction is correct. Then you need to design for the market. You need later to implement, manufacture for the market. So let me just stop here at when I say design and implement for the market. You just think about it. If your market is very sensitive towards sustainability, if your market is majority of the people in your market they want things to be very sustainably designed, manufactured, then it's worth it that at the designing stage and at the building stage you make sure that you don't put any toxic materials or any non-recyclable materials in, because even if the product's right, even if the price is right, maybe the market will reject it. So you need to think of the market much earlier. Now, even if you are making cars, for example, there are certain markets will accept the car without a catalytic converter, while there are some markets insist on having a catalytic converter for the car to be sold in that market. There are actually still markets where what do you call this thing when you have an accident? The airbag, yeah. The airbag is not compulsory. And I think Malaysia is one of them. You can still sell cars in Malaysia that doesn't have airbags. But there are some markets where there's no way, it's illegal to run a car without airbags. So when you're designing for that market, you need to understand and make sure that you put in the components, the aspects, the features that the market needs, rather than after you complete, you say, oh, I should have added this. Oh, I should have not used that material because it's toxic or it's hazardous for children below 3 or whatever. Then you need to operate. So even when you deliver the service, when you communicate it, when you advertise it, you have to think of the market. So the market and marketing is not an afterthought. Market is, and marketing and customers is where everything starts. And this is something that I've been talking to some of you about, where you say, oh, I have this great idea. And you are so absorbed with how great the idea is that you forget about who will buy it, who will actually show up to your event, who will pledge to the app or whatever you are making. So marketing, customers is a beginning rather than something that we do after we have the product and after we have the process. So when we say we conceive, design, and implement for the market, conceive, design, implement, and operate for the market, we need to see what are the things that we look at. So every time when you are doing anything, you are making anything, or you are preparing your value proposition, you need to ask yourself these 4 questions. Is what I'm working on economically viable? can it be part of a sustainable business model? Can I sell it? Are someone interested in buying it? Can I make profit out of it? And if you are giving it for free, will someone else be paying for it? So it has to be economically viable. It has to be technologically feasible. So remember, I think we had this discussion in the beginning of the semester where some of you say, oh, I have this new idea of, I don't know, a new bag or new touch screen, or where the technology does not exist. Now, this is a research and development stage. You cannot put this at the product design level. Only when the technology is available, we can talk about it in an entrepreneurial manner. So the technology that you are putting in your product or service has to be either available or about to be available soon. So for example, if I have this great idea of disrupting the airline market because I want one day to have a device that I strap around my body and I become a jet plane myself. That sounds like a very interesting product, but does it exist? Is it about to be in existence? Or this is just a dream? So if it's just a dream, then definitely this is not something that we can finish before the end of the semester and deliver before the end of the year. So things need to be economically viable, need to be technologically feasible, they need to be desirable. So the customer will want them. They look nice. There is a need for them. They look attractive. And people want it, socially relevant, easy to use, it's customer centric. And finally, it needs to be sustainable from an environmental point of view. Now, not all of the books that talks about this area of product design add sustainability, but I can tell you more and more this is becoming a requirement. So when I'm building this device, I need to make sure that how much energy I'm using to make it. Do I use any non-recyclable materials in? Am I impacting the environment in whatever way? And the customers are getting more and more aware and interested in products and services that have less impact on the environment. It's going into everywhere, including, have you heard of, what do you call it, ecotourism? So you go and travel where you have less luxury, pay more money, but the provider makes sure that your trip had very little impact on the environment. And there are people actually going for that. You may think that, oh, no one will do it, but this is a growing kind of business. So whatever you're working on, you need to balance the viability, the feasibility, the desirability, and the sustainability. So these are things that really need to drive us when we are conceiving, designing, implementing, and operating for the market. So let me talk to you about a life cycle of a product or a service. Often, a new product or a service starts its journey with few people willing to try it. So if you think of the phone, when we first had phone, do you think people were like feeling, wow, we've got phones and everyone is like queuing to the phone company to have phones? Actually, phone companies had very difficult time selling the phones in the beginning, because first you need the first person to have the phone. So let's say Jacqueline bought that phone. Then the guy comes to me and say, you know, you want a phone? What for? So that you can call your friends. But my friends don't have phones. Yeah, but Jacqueline had phone. Yeah, but she's not my friend. But eventually everyone will have, okay, when everyone has a phone, I will think about it. So actually it was quite a difficult task in the beginning to sell the phone. But after a while, more people start to use it. So it's in the beginning starts as a novelty. You have phone, only few people have it. But as time goes by, and in the beginning, it's actually quite expensive, and its performance is also not that good. But as more customers start to use it, then it becomes more like a commonplace in the market, and eventually it becomes a commodity. Now, what I'm driving here really is the journey between being a novelty, something that's new, even a status symbol, performance not that good, but price normally high, to the time where I don't know whether you lived in an era where all the phones, they look black, they all had very similar structure, they are not different from each other, and even their prices are very similar to each other. Do you know what's a commodity? Tradable product. What does that mean?
I think commodity is a tradable product, means something that you can exchange it for something else, service
Like
or something.
money.
Yes, something
So
like
money is a commodity.
I
Okay.
roughly
Who else want to
define
try?
it.
Okay, good try. Good try. You want to try? Yeah. Can you pass the mic here, please?
I think it's a needs towards the what's the word for it? A common need, technically speaking.
Commodity is a common need, something that we all need, like the internet.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else want to try? Yes. Take one more, and then I'll comment.
A norm.
Is a norm. So a commodity is a norm, like a social norm.
Like if
some-
you don't have it, you're weird.
If you don't have it,
You're considered an outsider, like
right.
yeah.
Right. So
outcast.
something that everyone uses in that. Anyone else want to try? Jeff wants to try. Do you want to try? You wanted to try? No. Okay, Jeff. Yeah, we try Jeff, and then.
It's a good or service that has expanded out from its niche.
So what does that mean? So can you repeat that? Well, it sounds like so deep, Jeff, as usual.
Goods is a good
Yes.
or service
Yes.
that has expanded out from its niche.
Expanded out of its niche. Right. Okay. So a commodity is. Let me do it differently. Okay. If I want to buy a bar of gold, a bar of pure gold, and he has one bar, Lewis has another bar. And it's all pure gold, all is, let's say, okay, 20-gram bar of gold. They all have it, is exactly the same. Is a bar. So who should I buy from? Is it fair to say I buy the one who gives me the cheapest? Yeah, because the product is exactly the same. Now, so that's the definition of a commodity. A commodity is a material, or could be a service, that's not differentiated. So when people say, what is the price of gold today? The price of gold is set sort of by supply and demand globally. You cannot say, oh, my gold is better. You sell it by gram. And likewise, if you say the oil price is this, the silver price is this, the salt is a commodity. It's NaCl. But if he go and do some goldsmithing on his 20 grams and make it into a ring, and he makes it into necklace and he makes it into a bracelet, for the same amount, he could charge 10,000, he could charge 1 million, he could charge, it's entirely up to you. You may say this is so artistic that I'm charging you not for the price of the commodity, but for the price of the novelty, which is I've made something new out of gold. So interestingly, everything, or most of the thing often start as novelty when only few people have it. It's something entirely new. But eventually it becomes, when more people make it, it becomes a commodity. So the commodity is when you use the price as the only reason why you pick A over B, that's a commoditized service. So when you select your phone company, if you are, or your internet plan, or your air ticket, if you are doing this mainly based on the price, it means the players within the market, they have commoditized it. It's just a commodity. But if you are willing to pay more for, because you just face it, what is the main value proposition for you to go from here to London? It's you need to fly. But if there is an airline that say you fly but there is entertainment, or you fly but there is a comfortable seat, or you fly, there is whatever they add to differentiate the offering, otherwise they fall into the trap of being a commodity. Now every product, every service, if it is successful, it will eventually sort of move into that direction, because if the product that you are making is new, you are the only one who makes it, people want it, he will copy you, Luis will copy you, Jacqueline will also start her own business, and everyone will start to do the same thing. And then eventually you end up with the pile of phones that, excuse me, that we have down there. This is a picture that I took myself. I took it in the Giant supermarket. So this is, now everything here, or almost everything here, is salt. Now, I don't know whether you can read this. This is actually 1990. This is 239. Down here, this is the garam halus. How much you think the price of this is? 1 ringgit. Now, very interestingly, that this is NaCl, this is NaCl, and this is NaCl, sodium chloride. How come on almost the same shelf, someone could ask you for this amount of salt, 1 ringgit, and for almost the same amount, they are asking you for 20 times the price? So what did they do? Interestingly, they say this has iodine. But I don't know, this guy may have iodine as well, but this has mentioned it. Some salt around here, they say this is sea salt, rock salt, mountain salt. All these things are what? Are attempt to differentiate. And if you successfully differentiate, there is the potential of you going from the 1 ringgit here to the 20 ringgit up there. Now, this is true for services, for products, and even for individuals. So if I drive a taxi and everyone else, we say, okay, to drive a taxi, you need to know the way, have a license, and pass a medical checkup, then maybe all of us we become a commodity. But if I am a taxi driver who say, I will entertain the customer, I will suggest maybe new places for them to go, I will suggest places to go to eat for the customer, I am actually differentiating my service and making myself different. I think we had a discussion before the class. We talked about even engineers. If you look at mechanical engineers or chemical or electrical or civil, from the point of view what is expected from them to know, it's almost the same thing. They need to know mathematics, they need to know statics, dynamics, thermodynamics, fluid mechanics, and the rest of it. And that will sort of create the basic engineer. But people who study entrepreneurship and project management and drama and philosophy and psychology, all these things will differentiate you later in the job market. So this is, in a way, really the journey from being a commodity towards being a novelty. Now, not every novelty will make it through its life cycle. Some of the new products never really made it. You know, they started and then they die out. So this is a curve that's I adopted from a book by Jeffrey Moore, not our Jeffrey, there's another Jeffrey. It's called Crossing the Chasm. So he talks about, although this is mainly written for products in the area of technology, but I find it maybe suitable for other examples as well. So what he says is, if you look at the market penetration of a product, you will start by, when you have a new product, totally new product, few people will always try these novel products. So if there is a new phone, they will buy it. If there is a new flavor of potato chips, they will try it. If there is a new restaurant, they will be the first people to go there. Jeffrey Moore called them the innovators. Now, these innovators are in different areas. So you are not innovators in everything. Some of us are innovators in travel. Some of us are innovators in food. They will always try new food. Some of us are innovators in technology. And some of us are innovators in a variety of things. How do you know that a person is an innovator? So I give you an example. If you want to buy a camera, digital camera, before you buy, is there a person that you actually, a friend of yours, you will call him first or call her first and say, can you suggest? Do you have that person in mind? Do you have someone who could advise you if you want to buy a camera, a computer? Do you have that person? Who has a person like that in their circle of, yeah. That guy is an innovator in the area of technology. So who do you ask? I asked Mike, our yeah. So now if you want to buy a car, is there a person in your mind that you will ask if you want to buy a car? And most likely, he or she is different from the one you ask about the camera. So these are people who will try, who will go to the shows, who will download videos about them. They're very interested in the new things in that. Do you have, and I think there are people for fashion and shoes and so on and so forth. So these people are the innovators. Market research shows that out of the population for every category of product, these innovators are around 4%. Now, after the innovators, there is what we call the early adopters. So it's still that this product or service has a very small market penetration, 4% innovators. After that, you have the early adopters, and there is around 16% of them. Now, what Jeffrey Moore noticed is after sort of 6% of the early adopters buy the product, it stops there. The market penetration stops. And he calls this the chasm. Somehow, after you get your 4% innovators, and the 6% out of the early adopters, the product or the service slows down. And only when the product manages to cross the chasm and continue getting the early adopters on board, only then most likely the product will take the early majority, which is another 50% of the market, and 20% late majority, which is after 70% of the people have gotten, let's say, the iPhone. The other 20 say, okay, we'll go and get an iPhone as well. The last 10%, he called them the laggard. These are people who will stop buying the rotary phones only when they cannot find them anymore. So now we have to use the new product. So this is how the novelty of the products and services, the life cycle of novel products and services go according to crossing the chasm. So there is something that needs to be done here if we are introducing a new product to the market, which is how do we work with the early adopters so that we really get the entire percentage, which is 16% or so, to adopt the market, to adopt the product or the service. And there are different techniques depending on the product and the service that we are working with. Mainly it's about engaging them, giving them free samples, sending them product update, getting them involved into whatever you guys are trying to do. Can you think of a product that did not cross the chasm? A product that starts with a hype, then after that, nothing happened.
I made phones. I made phones.
I made phones. What is that? Can you? I think because I think I'm in the late majority, so I didn't even.
Old smartphones.
It's the first one actually touch screen with the pen.
Yeah.
It's starting really high and then suddenly it starts to drop very hard.
Right. Okay.
Then they invent the iPhone, so touch everything.
Right. Okay. So I made phone.
Yeah, I made.
It's called I made.
I made.
Oh, I made.
It's the first phone
before
with
before iPhone.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
as a touch
So now I
screen.
know why it's called iPhone, right? Because
Yeah, but this one with the multi-touch.
No, actually, you're right. They copied it. They copied the iPhone.
I see. Okay. So that's one. Any other example? Maybe your example would be something. Yeah.
Uh, 3D TVs
3D TVs.
it died off.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So didn't really pick up. Didn't move on. Yeah. Any Google? Okay. Yeah.
Google Buzz,
Ah.
Google Wave also.
Right. So it started big, and they say this is going to be the next, but somehow it did not pick up. Yes. And I still remember when the iPhone maps first came out. They say this is going to be something so great. No one will be using Google Map after that. And I think iPhone even prevented us from downloading Google Maps on the phone somehow, I recall. But eventually, I think Apple reverted back to, yeah. So sometimes this happens because of maybe something faulty in the product. But actually, some of the product and services, it's really about how you make more people use them, so that they become the commonplace, and literally how to cross the chasm. Now, let me talk about the market evolution in line of what we've talked about thus far. You see, at a certain point in time, a new product will come out. So that would be a novelty, is a new product, is something that's cool, and often the performance in the beginning is not that great and the price is rather high. Then, as time goes by, the performance improves. And you sort of have a high end of the market and you have a lower end of the market. So if we are talking about the car, you will have Porsche and Ferrari, and you have maybe commonplace cars around here. If you talk about almost any service, you will have high-end, very expensive branded bags and maybe simpler, more commonplace products. But what we know, everything, almost everything, moves towards commoditization. So as time goes by, the performance improves, the price drops, and the difference between what the lower end of the market can provide and the upper end of the market becomes smaller. So even if you look at the cars now, even the simpler car will have an air conditioning unit, will have a stereo, will have a seat belt. So all these things become the differentiation between the upper end and the lower end of the market becomes a bit difficult. Now, what I would like to introduce to you is the concept of disruptive innovation. And this is something that was described first by Clayton Christensen, and in the book that's called The Innovator's Dilemma. So what he says is, if you look at the market, so you have, this is your market sort of space. So you have the lower end of the market, and you have the higher end of the market. Down here, you have market that's unaddressed. So there are people here who literally cannot pay for that product or service. So even the cheapest form of it, they still cannot afford it. Then suddenly someone starts offering a product or a service at a lower performance level for a very low price or maybe even for free. So in the beginning, so let me just give you an example before I move on. So let's say we are talking about airlines. Before we have the budget airlines, you had maybe the economy class. You have, I don't know, first class or business class here. So these are the people who can fly here. So now, down here, there are people who cannot even afford the economy class ticket. There goes a company that says, okay, I'm going to sell cheaper than even this, but I won't give you tea, coffee, and cookies. I won't give you a TV. I won't give you all these things. So it's a no-frill kind of flight, and I will offer it here. And I won't even compete with these guys. I don't compete with the airlines. So this concept started by an American company called Southwest. They say we do not, which I mean AirAsia and all the others just copied it. They say we do not compete with the other airlines. We compete with the train and the bus. So our competitor, we are looking at the people who are now traveling using the bus and the train. And we will compete with the bus and the train and take their customers. So they started literally here. So in the airline industry in the beginning, they say, oh, this is just out of our market. They will never be able to, catch up with us. But as time goes by, the performance improved, the reputation improved, and they started to eat into the market of the airline. So one way to go into business or to go to market your stuff is to look what is being offered and offer something to a market segment that is not addressed and disrupt the market, hence the term disruptive innovation. So how do you enter a market? So you want to market something. How do you enter? So if you have a novel product, you are literally providing a new value proposition. This is something that no one else have offered before. If you have an existing market, then you can use disruptive innovation. And how to market commoditized products? So that's a question. So if there is a product that's commoditized, everyone say it's just salt, right? How do I market that?
Adapting clever catchphrases.
By using what, sorry?
Using or adapting clever catchphrases.
By using clever catchphrases. So this guy has gold, and it's the same as his gold, and the same as Lewis Gold. So they will tell me what? For example, a catchphrase. My gold out of the mold. Or something like that. And I will just say, oh, I'm paying.
No, but you have to be convincing.
Convincing. So
Yeah.
catchphrase that's convincing, but I don't change the product, right?
No.
Okay. Can you give me an example of a catchphrase that convinced you?
For the like hair shampoo.
Hair shampoo,
Yeah.
yes.
I forgot what it exactly was, but it was it was quite nice. But I forgot exactly what it was.
So how was the shampoo, by the way? I mean, the catchphrase apparently was very nice. But how was the shampoo?
It was alright.
Was all right.
I mean, it was the same as before, but then because of the catchphrase, it was like.
Right. Okay. So what is he saying is you want to differentiate.
Yeah.
Now differentiation could happen by maybe if it's a shampoo, maybe you add something new in and say this is improved formula. So now will make you happier or will smell better, or sometimes you could just change the packaging and say this is a new packaging, so the look and feel is different. So the key thing here, if you have a commoditized product, you really need to differentiate. Otherwise, you have no choice but to compete on price. And that's why when people, there's not enough jobs to go around, what do the graduates or even people who are working do? They start taking courses. They start attending new degrees and attending training just to say, I am different. Yes, both of us are engineers, but I've attended this AutoCAD course and I've attended that, and you differentiate yourself and change your value proposition. Marketing in a matured market. So a matured market is when everyone's needs are met. So I give you an example. Does any one of you does not have a phone? Raise your hand. I'm sure everyone has a phone. Now, you have two. So 3. What do you do with them? Yeah. Okay. So if you have that many phones and there is a business that wants to come and sell phones to you, how do you do it? What? Trade in. So one of the ways to do it is, which Jeff said, is to trade in. So you create a scheme that I will take care of your old phone and I'll give you a discounted price, which is something one maybe of the strategies. Or make all these products null and void by creating a totally new standard for the telephony in terms of the experience, in terms of the technology, and then force everyone to change their phones. So these are the things that you need to think when you are doing the marketing. And exactly as you guys said, it's about knowing the customer and addressing the needs of the customer and making the unknown known. So if the customer don't know how much they need this until you meet them, and they are so lucky that they have met you, and now they know they cannot live without a phone, for example. So marketing of novel products and services. So there'll be novel, new, revolutionary. The vision is very necessary. You need to really see the world. So for example, if you recall, when Bill Gates and Microsoft were starting to sell the PC, what was the vision? A PC on every table. That was, they thought. There will be a computer on every table. And people say, what do you mean? Not every table has a computer, but I think now there is a computer here. Is there a computer inside? So this is the only table that doesn't have a computer. There's a computer here, there's a computer here, there's a computer here. So I think there are two there. So there is a computer on every table. So when you start with marketing something that is new, a vision is very necessary. You need to understand that the risk is high. You may try something totally new and you may just fail. You need to focus on the innovators because they are the ones who will let the rest of the crowd know about your product. So if you have a Google Buzz or a Google Wave or iMate, okay, yeah, maybe the name, I don't know. So then these are the people who have gotten your product or service. You need to engage them, support them. So if the device doesn't work, help them, make it work. If they have an issue with it, fix it. If it's not working, replace it. Because only when these people receive a call and say, look, I'm thinking of buying a phone, because these are the people that someone is going to call them, then they will say, well, there is this new phone, I think it's good. We either tried it or you can even give them the product for free, because they are the ones that people will refer to them when they buy. They are the guys and the ladies, when you want to buy a car or a phone or a camera, you will call them before you make the decision. So these are very important part of the crowd. So when you empower them, they will influence the early adopters. So we talked about the novel products, for example. If you have the telegraph, it was a novel product. Then the telephone came and became a novel product. Then the mobile phones become the novel product. And after everyone has a phone and we thought there'll be nothing, then the iPhone came and everyone has to go and buy an iPhone. So the disruptive innovation is what we've mentioned here. You can identify a matured market just like what we've said, everyone is addressed or their needs are addressed, and then you see what are the needs that are yet to be addressed. So if you can find the needs that are not addressed and you start from there, then you could maybe even disrupt the market that has been captured and addressed by the other companies already. So we give some examples about disruptive innovation. Budget airlines, as I said, are an example of that. Skype is actually quite a disruptive innovation. So now I think all of my international calls are done through Skype. Not all of them are free. Even when I call a fixed line, I use Skype now. I don't use my home phone anymore. This is a disruptive technology because I lived through the time when the internet telephony wasn't really as great as it is today. It used to be really, really cranky. But now it's a different story. Yeah. A MOOC to me is a disruptive innovation. So this is maybe first time in history we are learning here, and there are thousands of students out there watching the same lecture with us, and We are learning with them together, having teams, raising funds using crowdfunding. By the way, crowdfunding is also a disruptive technology, because previously, if you have an idea and you don't have money, you are at the mercy of the venture capitalists. You have to find someone to fund you. But we have seen through Kickstarter and Possible.com, there are so many people who actually managed to be very successful by tapping on the power of the crowd. So if it's a commoditized project or product, as we said, we need to differentiate it. So we can fortify the salt with iodine, and that will make it a totally different product. And we can bundle something with it. How many of you, in a certain point in your life, you bought a product A over product B just because there was a free gift with it? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Yes, let's see it. So actually, what did these people do? You are buying cereals. Cereals are, in a way, a commoditized product. But when they put a free gift with it, when they put that toy with it, they made it, straight away, it stand out. It became a different product. So this is one way of differentiating a commoditized product. So this is an example of, as a matter of fact, packaging and adding toys is a very powerful marketing technique. And my kids actually buy the, yes, thank you. Oh, I thought this is the, yeah, the toy. Yeah. My kids buy these cereals just for the toys. They seldom eat it, but they just want the toy. Yeah. So when you are marketing in a mature market, you need to decide, are you serving the high end, the low end, the masses? That's very necessary, and hence the word market segmentation. So you really need to segment your market, and as you go on making your Possible.com campaign, you really need to think, who are your customers and how much they are willing or able to pay, and see how you can address them. And also you need to differentiate. So in a matured market, so let's say everyone is selling phones. And imagine if someone say, the value proposition for this phone that it doesn't break. Yeah. So you could say this is a phone that is made in an entirely environmentally friendly way. So this could be one way to differentiate your product. If you are selling food, you may say, oh, my food is organic. So you still need to differentiate. And customer service is an extremely important dimension in matured market. So when everyone has a phone, everyone need is addressed by the telco. So for example, in Malaysia, we have what? Celcom, Digi, Maxis, U-Mobile, Tunes. Yeah. So more, I think in terms of price, it's almost like that's it. Is more or less you are there. But when you have an issue, do they really help you? Or just like what Adam Brimo say, our speaker, they just give you hassle. So this would be one. The second thing is the coverage. Where do you get the coverage? The places where you go, the way you drive, do you get coverage there? So it becomes, these are the ways that you can differentiate yourself in a matured market. So I just wanted to, this is actually my last slide, and I just wanted to talk again about market segmentation. So we talked about market segmentation in the airline market already, when we say you have economic class, you have the business and first class, and literally you are saying, you think, when you divide the airplane and you say 80% of it will be economic class, and the 20% or even less will be the business class and first class, it means in your mind that your market, 80% of your market can afford only economic class, and you think that 20% of your market can afford the business or first class. If the market can, if 100% of the market can afford business and first class, we would have had all luxury airplane flying. Now, but at the same time, if your market doesn't have anyone who is actually able to pay for the business class, I think there's no point of you wasting that much of the airplane having that area dedicated for the first class and the business class. So the segmentation of your market is extremely important. And I would like just to bring this back to the how do we use this when we run our crowdfunding campaign. Which part of the crowdfunding campaign reflects the market segmentation? Yes? Is the rewards? Yes. Well, I have been surprised at times with the answers, even if the answer is there. So it's the rewards. So when you design your rewards, you really need to show me that you have understood the market, or at least had an idea about the market, and you have built your rewards based on the market. So let me just show you some of the examples that we have, good or bad examples on Pozible. So you see this. They have 302 of 21 ringgit each. And what will this guy get? Receive a high remote of your choice, black or white. And your name will appear on. So this is majority of the people chosen this. The other one, 25 ringgit, somehow only 81 are taken. And so this, they put 1,000 of this. This is an, this offer, you will receive a high remote of your choice, blue or orange. So what does it tell you when this person who developed this campaign, what were they thinking of when they put for the black or white? They put only 302, and they make it 21 ringgit, while they created another one that is 25 ringgit, but you can have it either in blue or orange. What do you think has happened? So the first one is gone, all 800 plus. This one only 81 chosen. We don't know what the person was thinking of, but let's just try to imagine what went through their mind. I mean, Another question is, why didn't this person say, I have black or white, or blue or orange, and you can get as many as you want for 21 ringgit each? Why did they create the other category? And do you think this is a good idea or not? So this is just different in color, but it's 4 ringgit more per unit. If I talk only on the price side of things. And they put 1,000. Any thoughts, please? Yes, give him, yeah.
For the customer to have a choice.
Okay.
And it's like, it's a strategy where, because some customer doesn't really care about the colors.
Yes.
It's about the functionality of that device.
That's right.
So most of them will go for the cheaper one, even most of them will go for the cheaper one.
Right.
Even it's like it's like just a black and white color.
Sure. Good.
But what matters is the functionality.
Good. So the question is, why do you think they made this into 1,000 while this is only 302? You see, you told me that majority will go for the first one. But what these people did, they actually put only 300 for the majority and 1,000 for the not majority. What were they trying? Were they like, are they idiots? Or this is a very successful campaign. So what do you think went through their minds?
Forcing someone to buy
Okay, yeah.
No, there's forcing someone to buy the more expensive ones. You know,
Sure.
when the early ones finish, then you have no choice but go for the next level.
Sure. So that's one way of looking at it. You see, one of the ways I looked at it was this. There is 1,000 unit available that will cost you 25 ringgits. But if you are smart, if you are fast, if you are quick, there is only 300 units that are so cheap that if you act now, you will save. Now this is a technique. Now, the moment this is done, I'm so sorry, the offer is over. And in the process, what did they establish? They established that this product is desirable. There is 302 customers out there are waiting for the delivery. Now, guess what? Yes, I know you are paying 3 ringgits more, but you are different. The other guys is black or white, but yours would be what? Blue or orange. And I find this ingenious. You know, they even sell 8 of this together. And so I find this very interesting way of coming up with the rewards. So this is 26 ringgit, and this you will receive black and white. So this one, you see, this one is even more expensive than but it's black and white. So now if you but guess what? If you still want a black and white, we also get you covered. But you have to pay a little bit more. So this one, 31 ringgit. So this is becoming even more expensive. Okay, this one is gone. 40 ringgit, you will get 2. So for 2, the price will be 20, and they have only 70. So this is one way of creating, different values. And I'm sure down there they will say, we'll write your name on the website, we'll send you a thank you note, and all this kind of things. So when you are developing your rewards, try to think of different ways to do it, rather than it's just a linear kind of addition of, you give me 50 ringgit, I send you a thank you note, you give me 100 ringgit, I'll pray for you. This is very, very simple. Yeah. I was thinking of your project, Reynold, and I was thinking, do you know if you change your project to maybe baking a huge cake, and then giving it for charity, and maybe aiming at entering the Guinness Book of Records. Yeah. See? So it becomes a different thing. So the cake will feed maybe the needy, and you will have, and those who pledge, they could maybe be part of your team. They could help you cook. Yeah. Okay, so this is actually what I wanted to talk to you about today, mainly about marketing, segmenting the market, trying to get the market and the customer first before we go into our possible campaign. So is there any question? Okay, so if there's no question, thank you very much. Hope to see you again.